Okay, here we are. We are live.
Hello.
All right. Hi, Becky. So we are here live with Becky McKinnell of iBec Creative, and iBec is a digital firm with a specialty in e-commerce, and with so many brands going online or trying to really keep their business going by having a robust digital e-commerce presence. Thought it would be a great opportunity to have you on and kind of have some conversation live. We've been chatting the past few weeks, just sharing ideas and observations and information, and thought it would be good to kind of have our questions and commentary and thoughts available to other people, and also ask questions if folks have anything that they want to put in the chat. And yeah, so we'll go from there. So what are you guys seeing these days with e-commerce in your shop? Are you like, what are the trends, the problems? Like, what are the biggest roadblocks people are facing right now, or problems that they're coming to you with?
Yeah, the biggest thing that we're seeing is companies that have had e-commerce in their strategic plan. Maybe it's in their like 1 year or 2 year plan, like all of a sudden that's just really accelerated, and like everything that was on their wish list for e-commerce has become like a huge priority right now. So I feel like a lot of businesses that maybe were traditionally selling in person B2C and had like a simple e-commerce site now want to make it more robust. And then other companies that were selling B2B primarily now want to quickly get on board with e-commerce so that they can sell directly to consumers. And I think the biggest challenge that a lot of companies are facing right now is it's like this balance between getting a solution up fast and quick so you can start getting orders, or improving what you already have to be more efficient, that like quick result versus taking the time to do it right and like really be optimized for your business. So a lot of what we're doing right now is quick band-aid solutions, but I think as this continues, companies are going to start to be more thoughtful about what this looks like long term for their business.
Yeah, I feel like one of the I'm getting some weird feedback. Okay. Yeah, I feel like one of the things that I am just talking with a lot of people about is that there was kind of like this initial rush and panic of like, okay, we have to save the business, get online, just make sure that people can still access our brand, especially with the supply chain just being so weird and disrupted right now. And for small brands to just make sure that they're not kind of left out in the cold if like a retailer isn't carrying them, that somebody can still access them online. But now that people are kind of like over the initial wave of panic and starting to pick their heads up a little bit and figure out, okay, like how long is this going to be? I think it's going to be a long off ramp. That we're not going to go back to, just like things open up and everything reverts to how it was, that companies who kind of pivoted to e-commerce for the moment are going to want to stay on e-commerce. And so it means that they will be needing to kind of think more long-term versus band-aid solutions, and that you might as well just do it now, that if you're investing in it and trying to keep things moving and give your customers an experience, that now is a great time to just go all in, because you could be stuck with it for the next 12-18 months, and you don't want to be constantly revisiting it and kind of tearing down architecture and putting it back up again, I would think.
Yeah, for sure.
Is there any way to think about some of those short-term solutions with the long-term in mind? Like, any recommendations that you guys try to get people to think about when they're doing something short-term so that they don't have to tear it down?
Yeah, for sure. Like, so we were just talking with this one company that I want to keep their name confidential, but so they were using a very niche third-party app to run their website, and they decided that they needed to quickly pivot to e-commerce. So they added like Shopify, almost like buy buttons. So the
Mm.
customer experience had this like really weird, like you're on one site, but then you click to buy and you're jumping over to another site. It just didn't like flow really quickly. And it did help them get online, and get orders coming in. But as soon as they want to start doing really sophisticated email marketing and just get like smart about their website, like having these two different systems is just going to be so cumbersome for them. So we're recommending just to move everything over to Shopify, have it like nice and neat and clean and controlled. And that way, when they want to really level up their digital marketing, they're not going to be like working with a hack together solution.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think it's also interesting to think about some of these things. Like right now, consumers have a pretty high tolerance for like where it used to be like, oh, if I can't get it in like a day or two, I'm not gonna order. Now people are like, oh, well, I got it in less than a week. Yay. um, but I was just on I think like King Arthur flour trying to get yeast, and they were like setting the expectation really low. Like I put it in my basket and they were like, whoa, it's going to be like at least like 14 days before we can even process your order. So then when it came, a week later, I was like, oh, this was so fast. Whereas before I would have been like, waiting a week, forget it. I'll go to Amazon Prime. And I think that so customers, I think, have a higher tolerance and also want their money to matter. It's like when you either, as a consumer, you don't have as much money to spend. You kind of want every dollar to count. And also just the sense of solidarity. I want every dollar to count.
Mhm.
I think right now people have a higher tolerance for like thrown together systems, but I'm curious how long that will last, if that remains, or if companies start to see drop off if they don't have a seamless customer experience.
Yeah. Well, I think you bring up a really good point about like your experience with King Arthur Flour. Like, just props to them for even taking the time to add that communication on their website. I think a mistake that a lot of companies are making is like just kind of assuming that like, oh, customers will know this, or like, oh, they'll understand this, and like really now is the time to be over communicating. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but like I've found that a lot of sites will have like a COVID-19 section, and that's where all their communication will be.
Mm,
You transfer over to the product or the collection pages, and then there'll be none of that communication. So it's like you're kind of asking the customer to toggle back and forth, and just
mm.
really like looking at the product detail pages, and answering shipping FAQs, before a customer has to, question whether or not they're going to get their product in 14 days or 3 days or whatever it may be.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I hadn't really thought about, but yeah, I've seen a lot of that too of like go to our COVID page, or it's like, limited to a banner and you can click through for updates or something. But yeah, it definitely feels like for the brands that can do it, being able to kind of integrate it as part of their e-commerce to have up-to-date information about availability or shipping times to just reinforce it. I mean, I know, especially it's kind of like marketing 101 that you need to tell people things like 7 times. And I think that the companies that are being thoughtful about it are doing that, put it on a banner, put it in the product, reiterate it in the email, send an update. Not to necessarily depend that the customer is going to make that leap or give you the benefit of the doubt if you're not communicating well. So yeah, it's a really good point. Um,
Question for you, Megan.
yeah.
So one of the things that I've been thinking about is how important it is to over communicate. And companies that have products that you would typically experience in person and then buy, like let's say for example a food product, like tools like video and like customers taking or brands taking their own photography are like ways to enhance that. How do you recommend to your clients to like balance out these like quick hack together brand videos versus like having a really polished brand message? um, how do you kind of see that line right now in these quick solutions?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of similar to the way you were talking about the tech solution, that I think kind of the branding and the content piece of it is really similar right now, that I think people have a high tolerance level for things that don't feel very produced. We're seeing celebrities in their homes, not made up, doing concerts and things like that. So I think that there's a sense of intimacy that's actually a positive right now, seeing things that are a little bit more raw, a little bit more real. I think people are actually responding well to that. At the same time, I think particularly for consumer product companies, the idea that people won't be able to touch and feel their products, or examine them, or spend a lot of time. You might have much more um, limited time, as they're scrolling through e-commerce options, that making an impact is really critical, and giving some kind of experience with your content is critical. So I think that there's ways to do that that are still inexpensive and polished, but are yeah, they kind of walk that line between being inexpensive but still being polished. I think of there's actually so Becky and I have both been through this program called the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses, and in my cohort a couple of years ago, Liz Georgie had a different company at that time, but she recently launched a company called Suna, and they do product photography. It's almost like a Kinko's of product photography. And so you can mail them your product. They have a studio set up, they'll style them. And it's kind of like you just kind of click and, what are your options? What do you need? What are your backgrounds? But her team is super high quality. The products look great. They're very like social media friendly, like very Instagrammable, juicy, but it's like, $100 for, I think the photos start at like $39. So you don't have to pay, tens of thousands of dollars for a styled product shoot if you're only doing it for social media, but you still get something that feels quality and gives people an experience with your brand. And so I think seeking out those kinds of options, and those are the things we try to help connect our customers with, to make sure that they're not sacrificing one or the other, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
I think one of the interesting pieces about kind of like our two disciplines, kind of like the branding and then the digital e-commerce, is that you almost sit right in between the kind of branding, marketing, and then the back of the house experience. You're kind of like caught right between operations and marketing and sales. And I'm curious how you guys navigate that, or help companies navigate that, because marketing could have a great idea to, oh yeah, let's sell these products online, but if you're not set up for like shipping, fulfillment, you could end up creating a horrible customer experience, and so the idea doesn't get executed well. Do you guys have to do a lot of work with kind of back of the house operations?
Yeah, it's a really good point. I think that, in terms of like the discovery process, that's so important to have the people that are doing kind of like the logistics side of the e-commerce part of that conversation, and not just the marketers. I feel like a lot of times with e-commerce, everybody loves it because you can see ROI really clearly,
Yeah,
and like I spend this on ads and I make this much money and this is my profit, and it's really easy to figure out what those equations are. But there's also a lot of return on investment with efficiencies that you can create with e-commerce, whether it's data syncing, or just creating some custom tools, or even knowing like which apps and plugins to use that can automate a process that was traditionally done manually. So like absolutely having the logistics and fulfillment team as part of the website team, and bring them to the table so that they can, also share their pain points of what's saving them or creating hours of work a day for them that could be done in just a half hour.
yeah, I can totally see that. Um, for you brought up kind of like the instantaneous ROI piece of things. Are you seeing small businesses who are pivoting, really needing to support e-commerce with marketing dollars, or at this point is it still there's a pent-up consumer demand and we're pivoting to answer that demand? Are they having to kind of push and market products or like steer people to e-commerce?
Yeah, I think 'cause, like, just in the past couple weeks, we've started to see people be more open to advertising. I think when this, all started, a lot of people just paused all their ads and took some time to refocus on what their messaging was. And even still, like, I think messaging is difficult in advertising. Um, I don't know if you saw the article on Medium about, like, beware of gaslighting when this is all over, and brands trying to convince you that you, like, are finally free and can buy all these things that you don't need, and to be, as a consumer, to be wary of that. However, like, there are so many great brands and authentic companies that deserve to be strong e-commerce companies, and you can't just have a great product and expect that people will, like, automatically find you. It often takes marketing and advertising dollars to create more followers in your community, and kind of build that customer life cycle.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things I was talking with somebody about the other day is that with more products being out of stock or not available, that people are much more open maybe to a second or third choice to experiment a little bit and to try new brands. So it also feels like maybe an opportunity for some of the larger competitors that might be kind of like the number one choice. It's almost a good time to be like a number two or number three. If you can kind of like hit a customer right at their decision point. I was thinking about it particularly in store on the shelf, but you just made me think that like with e-commerce, that could be the other opportunity, is to kind of find a few competitors that you want to say like, ooh, if people are having trouble finding them, we want to be that next solution. I was just thinking of like searching for Charmin toilet paper and all of a sudden being like, oh, bamboo toilet paper. Yeah, I could do that. That sounds eco-friendly and cool. Maybe I'll give it a try. Um, where normally I might be very brand loyal. So yeah.
I was curious, from your end of things, like, with all the brand strategy work that you do for clients, like, how do you see it really paying off now? Like, how is the work that you've done, like, help guide companies?
I mean, I think it probably does two things. One, it really creates this sort of like very loyal, connected core. If a company has really focused in on their positioning and they know, without a doubt who their target audience is, it lets you be very strategic and targeted at this time. So you're not wasting dollars. So many brands like to say like, oh, we're for everyone, anyone should buy us. And it's just not true. And so knowing who that core customer is, if you're going to run e-commerce ads, you know exactly who you're targeting and how and what your message is. You don't have to be thinking about campaigns here. It becomes almost muscle memory at this point of like, okay, we know who our base is. We're going to kind of energize the base, as the politicians like to say. And then on the other side, I think it also helps to guard against just like kind of like weird, desperate behavior that you see some brands doing that just feels like off brand and wrong right now. So, like, it gives you those guardrails, not just to give you guidance on what to do right now, but also what not to do, like how it would be really inappropriate for your brand to show up right now.
Mhm.
Um, and so I think for companies kind of knowing those two things, we know what we are going to do and we know like what is off limits to us. um, it really helps their team be a lot more efficient and effective than companies who are kind of using this time to be like, oh yeah, let's step back and think about that stuff for the first time. I mean, it's great that they're doing that. I would encourage it, but at the same time, it's like, you know now's a little late to
Yeah.
be doing that. And it's just opportunity costs. So as things, start to open up, the companies that are like really ready to go and have a plan and can execute and be nimble, they're going to be a lot stronger than companies that are kind of fumbling around and trying some things. So I think that those are probably like the two biggest benefits. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like everyone has been, challenged to be their true selves right now. And like that applies for the brands, like who you were before COVID is like magnified times 10 for what you're showing up like right now.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like just like people, brands under stress show
Yeah.
their true colors. It's like if they were kind of skating by and we're not very focused, like they're gonna look, really um just distracted and, kind of fumbling right now. If they were very focused, that's gonna shine right now. And I think, they'll just kind of like um go back to the behaviors that are really strong for them. And I think for a lot of more like smaller, more entrepreneurial companies, I think those stripes are really showing now and paying off, that it's kind of like a good time to be an entrepreneur and be open and be scrappy. Yeah, just in talking to some clients, they're like, oh, it's, back to when we first started this. You kind of get back to like those early days of startup mode when like everybody's pitching in and you're just kind of like trying to make things go. And I think that there's energy to that and there's an authenticity to that that can definitely pay off as long as you're like, you still have that DNA in your company.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everyone says like we're all in this together, but it is so true that like everybody has just wiped their slates clean and, you know, scratched the initial 2020 strategic plan and like we're all just looking to reinvent and how we can be like that much better for our customers.
Yeah, definitely. Just want to mention to folks that so this is Becky McKinnell of iBec Creative, and they do specialize in e-commerce. So if anybody has any questions, definitely throw them in the chat, and we will try to answer them. Probably go for like a few more minutes, and then we will wrap it up. So now's the time if you've got questions and want some free advice. Otherwise, I'm enjoying the chat, so we'll just keep going a little bit. Um, One of the things that we talked about the other day that we both kind of got jazzed up about was this kind of thinking about what consumers' lives are like right now and how e-commerce and brands fit into their lives, and even the experience of buying fits into that. And one of the things that I brought up a little bit and that I've been thinking a lot about is that for brands that might have been playing in a space where they were like maybe a little bit high price, but would never consider themselves like luxury goods, just as kind of consumers worlds shrink and also budgets shrink, those brands could all of a sudden find themselves as being kind of like the consumer splurge spend. Whether it's like, oh, you know dinner is like now the focus of the week. So you now want that to be great and you're not spending money necessarily like going out to a nice restaurant. So, if you're cooking at home, you might spend on more high quality ingredients, or, like a great piece of chocolate, or, kind of splurging on snacks for movie night or something like that. Zoom game nights with friends. I just think it's kind of interesting where like it's where the brands, I think, now more than ever really need to have a pulse on how their customer is seeing them fit in their lives, like what their position is in their lives now, so that they can respond accordingly, so that you're not acting like, um, if your customer is thinking of you as a splurge, that you're giving them a little bit of that splurge experience.
Mhm.
And I think, e-commerce and the communications around it and the follow-up and the content can be a great way to kind of elevate that experience and kind of lean into how your customers are seeing you. Curious whether you have any like thoughts or tips on that, or ideas about how brands might be able to leverage that if they find themselves in that situation.
Yeah, for sure. Well, two things I was thinking about. One is just like more collaboration will lead to a more um, rich e-commerce experience. So, like when you're thinking about a customer splurging on one of your products, like how can you pair with another brand to create an offer that then like just amplifies what you're going to be sending them in the mail to be so much cooler. Um, so whether it's like a cheese company offering a package with like another brand that makes honey and another brand that makes like local crackers, and then instead of just buying like some really nice cheeses, like you're also getting this wonderful like cheese plate experience that you might have at a restaurant. The other thing that I was thinking of is so I've been ordering some takeout and some grocery pickups, and I love it when someone handwrites on the package, like, we love you, or thank you, or we're so appreciative of you. And I think that kind of like handwritten touch, like any e commerce company, it takes 10 seconds for the person that's doing the fulfillment to write a handwritten message on the outside of the box just to kind of like create that extra special customer connection rather than just like a sticker on the box. Like, how can you make that unboxing experience feel that much more personal and like create that human to human connection?
Yeah, I think that's like more important than ever now. I'm really glad you said that, just because I think people are really craving that authentic connection. And like you can have all these, Zoom calls and things like that. But, at the end of the day, you like see somebody in person or get, a handwritten letter or something right now. And it just, feels even more intimate or special or important right now. Even those things have kind of been historically successful. It just seems like now's a time just to like, if you haven't done it, just go for it. And as you said, like it's also a time when people might have, whether it's like with PPP or whatever, might have idle capacity. So just thinking about ways to maybe use that idle capacity in a way that not just, like we've been thinking about it of kind of like, oh, how do we shore up, you know, our infrastructure, do some projects that we've been, putting on the back burner. But I think it's also an opportunity to really like lean into customer experience. What else could we do to surprise and delight, or, do a little something special for customers? And yeah, that's a great idea. Have you seen any brands doing e-commerce especially well right now?
Um, I think that um, the companies that have, I'm just like scrolling through my Rolodex of who
Yeah, I
I've
put you on the
ordered
spot.
from recently. Um, I've been really impressed with local companies that have done e-commerce for curbside delivery and or curbside pickup and local delivery. I feel like that I f- I'm more connected than ever with the brands that I ordered them through, because like a person came physically from their store
Mhm.
to my house to drop something off just for me. And um, when they like before having this opportunity to order online and just like be able to pick up or have it delivered, it was like a chore to it was something that I had to do, rather than now it's something that I get to experience and be delighted by. So
Mhm.
for me, like what's really standing out right now is the local companies that have quickly pivoted and just been so nimble and flexible to be there for their customers.
Yeah, it's really amazing. One of the tools that we use with our clients is like a brand touch point matrix. And it's like the more personal and the more long lasting or frequent a touch point is, the more just like neurologically impactful it is. So like, you know, getting something delivered to your house is not the same as stopping and waiting in line at a curbside pickup and having a human being come out to the car. So I think again, just like for brands to be thinking about even those simple like operational chores that need to happen as being an opportunity to like cement loyalty. Because I
Yes.
think that like people are exploring things right now. They're trying new things, and but at the same time, they're also building habits and preferences. The longer this goes on, the more likely I am to just stick with a routine. Like if I have a good, order online pickup routine, maybe I'm not going to break it even when I can, if I'm still, trying to keep some social distance or things like that. So, um, Yeah, I think that that's it, the companies that are really seeing that and just either naturally doing it or strategically doing it. I think it'll definitely pay off long term. So awesome. So oh, no questions for us, so we'll have to probably just wrap this up. But yeah, it was really awesome to see you and talk with you. And we're going to be doing this again, right? We're going to try to do this once a week for the next couple weeks and just see if we can continue to just give people support and continue the conversation. So if anybody's got any ideas of things that they want to hear about next time, feel free to let us know. And um, so thanks so much, Becky, and
Thanks,
hi
Megan.
to your team. You guys are awesome. So,
Yours. It's a pleasure to collaborate.
all right. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.